I used to be all in on minimalism. For a short period, it made a really big impact in my life. And I feel like it's one of the few trends that we've had recently that has been good.
Minimalism changed my life.
Minimalism had one job: to help us not buy things that we don't need. And somehow this idea of minimalism has gotten a little bit twisted, and consumerism has gotten a hold of it. Whole companies have been built around it. There's new products. Everybody tried to turn it into something that it was never supposed to be, and missed out on the few things that minimalism actually does well. For a while, this was new and exciting. The documentary was interesting. The white walls were new and clean and fresh. But as a lot of the creators especially kind of moved on to other things, including myself, to be honest, a lot of the buzz around minimalism and the good things about it kind of fell along the wayside, and it left room for people to try to capitalize on that space. Like, the useful parts of minimalism, they didn't fail. Only owning things you actually use and refusing to spend money on random crap that doesn't matter, all of that still works. What it failed is that it kind of turned minimalism into, like, can you count the number of possessions that you own? Do you only wear the same 5 shirts all the time that happen to be gray? Do you have big biceps? Obviously kind of a joke. But I feel like what missed is it really talked a lot about decluttering what you own, only buying things you need, even though it took that a little bit too far. But it really missed out on the freedom aspect of this as well. And I feel like financial minimalism had maybe 6 months or a year where it was kind of popular, and then that kind of died off, when I think that was the most important part of this movement, is not only what it can do for your life, what it can do for your mind, but what it can do for your life and mind in a different way, and that is monetarily, when you can use it to build freedom. And I feel like that part never picked up, and I kind of want to touch on that today, because for me, that was the biggest part of minimalism. Not only did I declutter everything in my house, I got rid of all my clothes, I got rid of everything I didn't use, I pretty much stopped buying things in general, but what it did to my finances made a much bigger impact. And I feel like minimalism kind of promised freedom, but turned it into a nice white shiny cage for a lot of people that sometimes it takes you like a year or two to realize that you're in. So in this video, I want to break down how minimalism got absorbed by the exact system that it promised to fight against, why decluttering never solves your real problem, and then how to use financial minimalism to make a huge impact in your finances, something that I feel like didn't catch on enough. I want to start off with voluntary consumption. This is something that minimalism really got correct. Like, there is actual research-backed evidence that voluntarily consuming less can actually improve your well-being. And that makes sense. Stuff has a carrying cost. If you bring something into your house, you bring a cup into your house, you have to wash this cup, you have to dust this cup, it has to sit somewhere, it takes up a little bit of space. Like this sheepskin rug, as beautiful as it looks and minimalist as it looks, I did have to trade a little bit of my life in order to have this thing that is comfortable to sit on. And then obviously I have to clean it, maintain it, and worry about it and whatever. And eventually, pretty much everything that we buy that is in our houses themselves will eventually be trashed. Like, minimalism started with this question of, what do I need? And then for some people, not everybody, obviously, but it turned into this aesthetic answer of like, I need this exact lamp because this is like the best one, and less but better. And once that kind of aesthetic really caught on, everything changed. So the first problem with minimalism is what I'm going to call the purge loop. You feel overwhelmed by your stuff, so you go through, you just purge your closet, you purge your cabinets, you get rid of all those things that you never use. And for a few days, maybe even a few weeks, it feels amazing. You feel light, you feel free, your closet actually closes, it doesn't fall on you. You actually can find your keys in your wallet for once, which is a novel concept. Actually, look at this stat for how much time the average person wastes looking for lost items. It's crazy. But if you never fixed your mindset and the why, the reason behind why you bought that stuff in the first place, eventually this empty space becomes an invitation. It might take a week, a month, or a year. So now that you got rid of all those cheap shirts and you just have what's left, you realize that maybe I want to match everybody else, and I want to have nothing but black or gray or whatever colored shirts, and I want 12 the exact same one, and I want to get the nice quality one, not the cheap ones. And so therefore, you now went from just getting rid of stuff you don't use to buy new things to replace the things that you still had, because now these are more minimalist, they all match. Now I don't have to think about this again. And I did that personally. Like, this is one of the only shirts that is not black in my wardrobe. We just went for a trip, so all my clean clothes are dirty. Regardless, I did that thing, and I like having all those, but I did buy stuff when I didn't need to. You start to go through and you realize that, well, since I have an empty space here and I don't love this lamp, I'm gonna get the perfect lamp. I'm gonna get the perfect couch, the perfect one Less but better can be an invitation to fall back into the same trap. It's just you're buying less things, but more expensive things. For a lot of people, decluttering kind of treats the visible aspects of the problem, but it doesn't get the underlying problem, which was buying too many things. Whether you do it slowly or you do it with purpose, it's still this consumerism trap that we fall for. Minimalism became a market, it became a business. There are minimalist books, minimalist courses, minimalist planners, and then came the minimalist furniture, and then the minimalist backpacks, the minimalist wallets, the minimalist phone cases, the minimalist wardrobe that was ethically sourced. Everything just started to take advantage of this word, minimalism. Certain companies found out that they didn't need to sell more to us. They just needed to sell us less, but much more expensive. And again, I'm not saying expensive products are a scam. I would rather have one really good backpack, which is what I have now, than the ones that I used to get at like TJ Maxx that would just fall apart all the time. But this is a very slippery slope to be on. But the problem is when we all start buying something that we identify with. It wasn't enough to be a minimalist, to live a minimalist lifestyle. You now need to look like you don't have a lot of stuff in your house. You need to dress like it. This is what consumerism does better than almost anything else. It can absorb the rebellion against it and use that psychology to trick you. Like, do you hate fast fashion? Well, here is a premium, ethical, minimalist wardrobe that is just for you. Do you hate clutter? Here is the perfect matching containers for all of your junk that you need to have, but it just needs to be matching, and we can create this whole industry around organization that has just exploded, where again, you're buying things to put things in. Do you even hate being manipulated by brands? Well, here's a different brand whose entire message is that you can't be manipulated by brands. So wear this brand that doesn't have a brand logo on it because that's the identity you want to have. Like, what are we doing here? And some of these brands are worth tens and hundreds of millions of dollars. It worked. It's honestly kind of impressive. Economy kind of took like the anti-consumerism and turned it into a skew of consumerism. For some reason, our unconscious tells us that brands we recognize are better than brands that we don't, even if the product is literally the same or better. Like last year, I switched off of Xfinity for our internet and I moved to like some local thing, Vidium or something. And it was literally under half the price for more than double the quality. It's like amazing. And yet a lot of people I know are still unwilling to change just because they don't recognize the brand or they've been with a brand for a long time. There's like loyalty that they have bought with ads, even if those ads never actually tell you much about the product itself. I've done the same thing with my phone plan where I haven't used any name brand phone plans for the past over 5 years, I think. And yet most of the people I know are still paying way more than they need to for a service that is the exact same. Like for example, Telemobile, the sponsor of this video, they're built on the nation's largest 5G network. Their most expensive plan for unlimited is like $25. And again, built on America's largest 5G network. And so it's absolutely no brainer, but because other companies might spend billions of dollars on marketing, people stay with them and spend more, even if it's the exact same service, just double the amount or something. Doesn't make any sense. And for me personally, and I feel like the whole core concept of minimalism is like, don't waste money on stuff that does not improve your life. And that's why I have no attachment to any providers, any brands. I don't care if I've never heard of the brand before. If something else is cheaper and better, I'm gonna switch. And so like with Tello, you can bring your phone over, you can set it up in a few minutes. It's not that hard. It's very simple and easy. There's no like year-long contracts and all this junk that all these other ones try to trap you into because they got to recoup all their marketing budget. And you might be able to literally change from some of those to Tello. And depending on what you were paying before, you could save hundreds of dollars a year and not even have any difference. That's always a no-brainer to me. If you're interested in checking them out, there is a link down below. Don't overpay for something that doesn't improve your life. Tello is super solid. Check them out. And thank you to Tello for sponsoring this video. I think really one of the main things that minimalism missed was it really talked about our physical possessions, but it didn't talk about our obligations as much. Like the expensive part of life, the thing that is really holding you back, it's making you stay at a job that you hate, not seeing your kids, not being able to travel. A lot of that is not because you have 3 phone chargers in your junk drawer. A lot of that's not because your closet's overfilling with stuff. Like some of those things are true, like people waste a lot of money. But according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, your housing and your transportation account for over half of the average American's spending in 2024. So like you can Marie Kondo every single cabinet and every countertop in your home, but if your house is still too big and you still have a car payment that's $700 something, which is the average, you still are really messed up. You still don't have any more freedom in your life. Maybe your house is a little cleaner, maybe it's a little less stressful, but you still have no chance but to pretty much be a slave and go work for somebody indefinitely, or they take your house away. And so a lot of times people focused on this question of like, oh, how many things do I own or whatever, instead of kind of asking the more important question of how much does my life cost? Like how many hours do I need to trade of my life every month in order to be alive? Because that is the number that literally controls you. And I think that's the more important aspect of this is every reoccurring dollar that you have going out the door, every subscription you haven't checked, that is an obligation to your future self that they guaranteed will have to work in order to cover that. The mortgage, the rent, the insurance, the subscriptions, storage unit, software, childcare, some of those are important. Some of them are a necessity, but all of those are promising your future self to not have freedom. And so like a lot of times a home that has stuff on the counters and the wardrobe is overflowing, but it's a much smaller home than they need, they have a paid off car and no debt, that house can be way more free. Time freedom, mental clarity, even freedom to do what you enjoy more and travel more. Any of those, like the real big freedoms in your life can be way more free than a big minimalist home that has almost nothing inside. It's nice and clean, whatever. But the monthly payments are twice as much. And so like I feel for a lot of this that like minimalism was important. It is like, I think kind of like the first step, but it just didn't really cover the bigger things in people's lives. Now, I don't think we really need like a whole new movement, although I'm a big fan of the words financial minimalism, just because like it really makes sense in my head. But I really think we need to get back to this initial question of minimalism, like what minimalism was at its core. And it's this question of what is enough? How much house is enough? How much car is enough? How many upgrades? We don't always have to have the best of all these things. How much is enough that when we get to, let's say 80% or something, that extra 20% might cost double the amount, but it doesn't make us any happier. So what is that point where you get to this point where like, whether I have a $10,000 car or a $20,000 car, or a $20,000 car or a $30,000 car, whatever that is, whether I move up or not, which it might be 50% more expensive, will my life be any different? Will I be happier? Will I have anything be better about my life? And for a lot of those answers, it's no. And so while I really think that minimalism is a really cool tool to get you from crazy to less, it also really doesn't get you all the way to freedom. And we always kind of assume that less is better. And a lot of times it is. Less consuming is generally better. Studies on that. Less expenses is generally going to be better. But there are some things that are good. There's a lot of things when you have kids and a home and a backyard and multiple seasons of the year where you have all this stuff that's not technically minimalist and you're trying to fit yourself into this box. And a lot of times, a lot of these rules that we talk about, they're very flexible. It's not one size fits all. Everything's different for everybody. And a lot of times when you read a book that, somebody's full-time job is to live a minimalist lifestyle and they don't have kids, and it can make you feel shame or like you don't fit in or that you're not good enough because you don't live up to what this person's showing in their YouTube video or whatever, or in their book or in their course. Like a lot of that's kind of unrealistic, and it can lead to this feeling of always being behind. So you get rid of this bad feeling of having too much crap everywhere, and now you have this feeling that no matter how much you get rid of, it's never good enough and you can't keep your home clean. And for me, even like this was something that was kind of hard because I can't keep my counters clean. It's really hard, and part of the reason is because we have 3 kids and there's just chaos everywhere all the time, and just like cleaning the house 3 times a day just to like stay at baseline. And while we did get rid of a ton of toys and we really downsized, it's never going to be that ideal. It's never going to be what you see. And like comparison is the thief of joy. So if you're always comparing yourself to other people that you see or ideals or rules, some of those are to be taken with a grain of salt. All right, so I want to spend a minute here on the things that matter. I don't know who wrote a book about this. Now, there are things that matter, but I think some of the big things got pushed to the side with getting caught up in this whole decluttering aspect of minimalism. Like if you think about probably the biggest time suck for every single person watching this video, 90% of people, whatever, it's gonna be how they're spending from like 9 o'clock till 4 or 5 o'clock, including a commute and brain space and whatever. Like that's the issue. right? That is a thing that's not letting you go to your kid's soccer game, that's making you stress about money. A staggering amount of people stress about money. That's what's causing you to stress about debt. Bible even says the borrowers are slave to the lender, and most people are slaves to somebody, where if you don't keep showing up to the box to work, then they will take your stuff away from you or put you in jail, or like something will happen. And so like that is a literal case of being a slave to the lender. And while minimalism can help with that, it can help you not spend as much money. It can help you go through and get rid of the unwanted subscriptions. It can help you, maybe not need as much house, and so you get a smaller house. It can help you not spend a lot of money and then sometimes try to trick you back into spending it again. But whatever, it doesn't focus about the big things that matter. And those are those moments that you could have had throughout those days. You could have had that time with your kids. You could have had that trip. And I feel like this is just all reasons why I think financial minimalism matters so much, because what it really comes down to is the math of freedom. And that is pretty much minimizing your expenses as much as humanly possible. And there's whole ways to do that so you can get that number low enough. And by using kind of like what I'm going to call a minimalist business, for lack of a better terms, but pretty much you're trying to find the 10 to 20% of things that really matter. It's the whole 80-20 rule. And ideally, we would make as much money as possible in a short amount of time as possible by only doing the most important things possible. And that way we get a lot of time back, and maybe we don't earn as much money, or maybe we earn more money, whatever it is. But that is kind of like a minimalist idea of spending less time to make more money. This is the 4-hour work week, a whole book about it, whole movement about it. This is what I do with the multiple businesses that I run, where I set them up in a way where I can get out of this trap of trading my life for money. And by systematizing things, by outsourcing, by using scalable businesses, I can get a lot more freedom back in my life. And I think that's just an aspect where so many people never touch on the biggest time suck, the biggest happiness suck, the biggest thing that stresses people out, which is, again, their job. I feel like minimalism really never touched on that. And it touched lightly on some of the other stuff, but I'm going to do a whole series on financial minimalism, kind of the spending less, earning more, minimalist lifestyle in business that gives you a lot of freedom a lot faster, which I think what people want from minimalism, right? You want that freedom. You want to not stress about your stuff, your money, your house, your life. Minimalism was a tool that got us part of the way there, but I feel like not only did it get flipped and tried to turn into consumerism trap, but it also didn't really get us where we want to go. So yeah, if you want to see that series, drop a like on this video, and I'm going to be working on it regardless. And if you want to see how I run each of my businesses in about 5 hours a week, I've been doing content full time for about the past 6 years, doing a free workshop, link down below. Feel free to check that out, and I'll see you next week.